Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator of human race. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. Yes, it is time. It is I, your lovable host, Rod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, back live after a self-imposed hiatus. Got lots to go over, lots to talk about, lots to do, lots of stuff coming over the next couple of weeks as we re-ramp up this show. The truth is out there. We're going to find it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to tell it. No questions asked. We're not going to apologize for it either. Don't forget to check out all the wonderful ways of getting in touch with me via social media. You can do it via Skype. Just look for Reckles44. Or you can, that's on Skype, by the way. For those people who really want to try to get a hold of me or something like that, you can do it on Skype. You could also catch me on Facebook, of course. That's easy to do. Facebook is not difficult. I mean, I think most people know about Facebook. Yes, if you don't, then you know what? You really need to learn. It's pretty simple. Just go over and check out the fan page over there, Rod Eccles Show, as well as Twitter, Rod Eccles on Twitter, as well as LinkedIn. Yeah, again, Rod Eccles on LinkedIn, and even on Google Plus, Google Circles or Google Plus. You can get me at Rod Eccles on Google Plus. Yeah, I don't try to hide from anybody. So you can always catch me or see what I'm saying or sharing. No, I don't have an Instagram. Pinterest. Yes, you could look for Pinterest. Rod Eccles again. A number of different interesting things on Pinterest. That a lot of stuff doesn't have anything to do with politics if you're into the Pinterest stuff. But I put up some good political stuff up there, some good Americanism stuff up there. Just look for things called Freedom Looks Like This. Lots of great pictures of what it means to be an American and be free, as well as a bunch of other stuff. No, I don't have Instagram. I don't plan on getting an Instagram. And I know that there's probably a half dozen other social networks out there that are up and coming. Tumblr, I don't do Tumblr. You can check out rodeccles.com. That will be updated. The blog will be active over there at rodeccles.com. It's going to be a little bit different. Over the next week or so, you're going to notice some changes at rodeccles.com. It's going to be a little bit more, a little bit easier to navigate, and a little bit more informative. Stuff's going to be a little bit more informative. It's all stuff that's all getting better. What can I say? Here, the bunkerized studio has had a few changes as well. Makes things a little bit better. We've had some computer issues in the past. We'll probably continue to have computer issues just simply because me and technology are still at war. But hopefully we fix some of those things. So, and we are going to be getting the call-in feature back soon. So I know a lot of you have been wanting to talk to me directly. And look, with this new campaign of Fireproof, I've got to be able to take some heat from you people. I know that. I'm not afraid to do it. I've done it before. And the point is that nobody has ever been able to burn me. That's why I'm fireproof. That's right. You got to. How else could you explain being the coolest conservative black man on the planet? I'm fireproof because I speak the truth. I speak from logic. I don't speak from emotion because emotions change. Logic does not. Well, actually, logic does change, but it only changes when the available information changes. It doesn't change on a whim. And it doesn't change based on emotion. Well, I don't care what you feel. What you feel has nothing to do with the issues. I love how people say this all the time. Well, I feel this and I feel that. And I look at them and say that has nothing to do with how you feel. Your feelings mean absolutely nothing. I mean, let's be honest here. Because if we're just simply going by feelings, there are a lot of things that have changed as far as feelings over a period of time, have they not? In this country, just within our own lifespans, have they not? I mean, it was one point we felt that long hair was of the devil. Oh, the devil. Long-haired hippies, you need a haircut. And long hair was felt to be okay. And long hair we felt that long hair just wasn't good enough anymore. It had to be big hair. Remember the 80s? Big hair. And now we look back and we feel that people were total idiots for wearing their hair like that. Where's the logic in there? The fashion doesn't have logic. And there are certain things in life and on this planet and in this universe that logic doesn't make any sense. And that's fine. Fashion is one of those places. There's no room. You cannot determine by logic what somebody's going to like in fashion and what's going to be fashionable. What kind of hairstyle is going to be fashionable? What kind of clothing is going to be fashionable? There is no real logic behind it. It's all based on emotion. Do we like the colors now? Oh, it sets a mood, right? Remember, I think in the 70s, for cars, green was a big thing. And then we went, 20 years without a single shade of green on cars anywhere because nobody liked it. Was it logical not to like the color green on cars? No, logic had nothing to do with it. It was what we liked at the moment. It was fashionable. It was what produced an emotion in us. And green cars did not produce a happy emotion. So manufacturers didn't make green cars because they didn't sell. But there is no room for emotion when it comes to the law. When it comes to government. And I know we got a lot of people running around out there saying, government's got to take care of people. Got to have compassionate government. No. I'm going to be frank. We don't need compassionate government. Because that compassion can change from generation to generation. Hell, that compassion, the meaning of compassion can change from decade to decade. What we need is logical government. Is it logical for government to run this program? Is it logical for government to tax this much? Screw the emotion part. That has nothing to do with it. If we approach certain things from a logical standpoint, we'd have a totally different governmental system. Would we have a constitution? Absolutely. Because that is logical. You limit the power of your government. That is logical, because without specifically limiting the power of government, government thinks it has unlimited power and can do whatever it wants. Look, we've got a government here that has limited power via the Constitution of the United States, and they're still getting away with doing just about anything they want. So can you imagine if we didn't have the Constitution? No, that's the best thing to do, is you limit your government's power. And when your government decides it wants to overstep its authority, we the people should be able to take that power back, displace that government, and replace them. Because after all, we're the ones being governed, are we not? Should we not have a say in how we are governed? Should we not be able to beat back the hand of oppression that we call a government and government tyranny? I mean, come on, this is the 21st century. I thought dictatorships were old-fashioned. I thought they were out of style. I thought the human condition, humankind, through technology was too smart, too enlightened to be dictated to by somebody else. No, I guess it's quite all right that if you are a conservative, you can be demagogue for your beliefs and your convictions. But hell, if you're a liberal, be you a socialist, a Marxist, or a communist, oh, that's just fine. But I thought we were supposed to be, what was the 60s all about? Freedom, right, man? Baby boomers, the flower children, is all about freedom, not being constrained by the man. And what have they morphed into but a controlling entity called the man? They're really controlling now. I mean, think about that. Here you've got all these drug and hyped up hippies from the 60s and 70s talking about the man and don't give in to conformity and don't trust anybody over 30. And now they're over 30 and they're producing a government that is taking more freedom away from the American people than ever before. I mean, these are the same people that criticize and wanted to ostracize people like McCarthy. But today, no, it's quite all right. We can have somebody like Holder go ahead and tap into the phones and emails of news personnel, journalists, because they're afraid of what the journalists might find out and report on. That sounds kind of McCarthyism, doesn't it? Is that logical? No, it's not logical. It comes from an emotion of fear. What fear? Fear that those government employees, and that's exactly what they are, there are employees, those government employees will lose their position of wealth and power. See, when you give people too much power, well, let me tell you, power is a bigger drug than wealth. Power is a more compelling drug than cocaine, y'all. It really is. For some reason, I don't know what it is about power, but power can just grab some people and people can become permanently drunk with it. This is Obama. Obama's drunk with power. He's a terrible president. I'm sorry, he is. But he is drunk with, just look at all the executive orders. This is a man that is drunk with power. And being drunk with power is not logical. Not in any way, shape, or form whatsoever, because you cannot make good, sound public policy when you are drunk with power. Look at all this public policy we're getting. We're getting scandal after scandal after scandal. We're getting this, we're getting things like Obamacare. And now we're starting to see Obamacare implemented, and people are starting to find out, oh, wait a minute. This isn't the panacea that we thought it was going to be. This isn't going to be the medical utopia that we said it was going to be. This is not what we were promised. But hey, we on the right, conservatives who thought logically about this, were telling you that this was going to happen. Oh, no, Rod, you're all wrong. You're not compassionate at all. You're just mean, and you just want to kick the poor out and make them fend for themselves. And when you know that they can't fend for themselves, and no, that was not our issue. Excuse me. Our issue was that The government could not logically handle taking over health care. It doesn't work in any country. I don't care what people tell you. Oh, they do it well over here. No, they don't do it well. Because if they did it well, more than 90% of all the medical advances would not be happening in the United States. They would be happening in these government-controlled healthcare systems. Medical advancement is not happening in those places. It's happening in the free market system right here in the United States of America. Those are the facts. And when you have the facts, you can be logical. Logic would dictate if most of the world's health advances take place and happen in a free market style system, and it's happening right here in the United States, would it not be logical that the rest of the world should want to emulate such a system? Because if the entire world were on a free market system, can you imagine the medical advancements we could achieve? We could have probably wiped out some major diseases like cancer by now. But no, we've got half the world under a system that is government controlled. There is none, zilch, zero, nada. There is no reason for them to try to advance medical care. It's all controlled by government. Is that logical? I don't think so. In fact, I know that that's not logical. That is some of the most illogical BS you could possibly be, that could possibly be foisted upon you. And you should not accept it. And now we're being told, oh, yeah, well, hey, this is going to cost us a bundle. And, you know, Obamacare is going to cause the cost of health insurance for a family of four to skyrocket to as much as $20,000. People in California are going to see their bills rise by the second half of this year by as much as $5,600. But weren't we told it was going to go the other way? Weren't we told it was going to cost us $2,500 a year less? And now we're starting to see things happen like people being denied care. Hey, we got a little girl, needs a lung transplant. And Kathleen Sebelius is saying, we got a lot of people that need a lung transplant, and she's only got like 5 or 6 weeks left to live anyway, so why waste it on her? Obamacare hasn't been fully implemented yet, and we already have people dying. The death panels are already in place. Remember, we told you about those. Oh, that's not going to happen. We're not going to have death panels. We're not going to get in between. This is the government speaking. We're not going to get in between you and your doctor. Well, now the Department of Health, by the name of Kathleen Sebelius, just got in the way of that girl and her doctors. And Kathleen Sebelius just issued the death sentence for that girl. Oh, but government isn't gonna get in the way between you and your doctor. No, we're not gonna speed the process up for that girl. She's already gonna die, so just let her die. It's gonna get worse. That is the logical thing to think. Because the evidence would suggest, thinking historically, the evidence would suggest that human nature is such that when a person has too much power, they become drunk with it. And when they become drunk with the power, those that they have power over suffer, not benefit. So therefore, if a person gets too much power and they become drunk with that power and they rule with that power over a certain amount of people, and that usually almost always means no good for humanity. for the subjects, then is it not logical? Excuse me. Is it not logical to assume, and it's not even assuming, just being truthful in your own head, is it not logical to go ahead and say that things like Obamacare are not going to be in the best interest of the people of the United States of America? Hell, it's not even going to be in the best interest of the people of the world, because it is going to shut down the economic engine of a medical system that has produced more medical advances than the rest of the world combined. That's a fact. If you take away the incentive, why bother? There is no incentive under a government system, which is why those systems do not produce medical advances hand over fist. Sure, you're always going to have people that are going to slip through the cracks. You're always going to look, there's 7 billion people on the planet. You're always going to have people that do not fit. This isn't Star Trek. There is no utopia. I don't know, maybe someday, when we have hyper sprays and everything else, just a little hyper spray or a little DNA scan and manipulation will cure you. Maybe when, in that time of Star Trek becomes a reality, sure, then we won't have a need for any further medical advancements. Oh, yeah, great. But folks, understand this. The greatest achievement in mankind's history has been over the last 200 or 300 years. Why? Because of something called a free market or free enterprise system that has never been in full effect in human history since the Roman Empire. Think about it. Now, the Romans took something from the Greeks. Now, notice whenever there are free people. Notice whenever there... Now, pay attention to this. Notice whenever there is a free society, there are advancements all over society. There are advancements in government. There are advancements in military, sciences, arts, humanities. There's advances everywhere. Ancient Greeks, the city-states of Greeks, free society. Their advancements in government and society were so grand that when Rome decided that it was going to become Rome, who did they copy? They had a lot of different empires that they could copy. Who did they copy? The Greeks. And then when they did that, what did Rome do? Rome flourished for like 500 years or so by having citizenry and free peoples and allowing the free exchange of ideas and free elections of government officials called the Senate. And then comes along the United States in 1776, where we had a bunch of old white fat white men decide that they wanted to try this democratic experiment. And they come up with, Declaration of Independence and a Constitution of the United States, and then attach a Bill of Rights. And they set up a free enterprise society with limited government interference. And oh, wow, then we had the Industrial Revolution, and things just took off, Jack. Sure, there were some bumps in the road. There were some wars. There are some battles, but that's throughout human history. That's nothing new. It would be illogical to think that man would ever get through a point in time where there would not be war or bumps in the road like that. Sorry, we're not at that point yet. Humankind just isn't, unfortunately. But all this wonderful advancement. And let me tell you, the rest of the world has been able to benefit tremendously from the advancements that happen in Western society, especially in the United States. Now, people like to think, well, the rest of the world isn't getting any of this. Oh, yeah, it is. Look at China catching up. Look at India catching up. Even some African nations where they don't have an overly bearing dictatorial dictator, they're starting to catch up. So all this free enterprise system stuff going on around the world. People wanting to do better for themselves, their family, their communities, their city, their state. They want better. Free enterprise system provides better. Government control provides oppression and the status quo. Hell, look at our own government. We can't even clean up the messes that we create by our own government. IRS, anybody? We've known that the IRS has been a trouble spot in this country for decades. Have we changed it? Guaranteed that it would be a different story if it was a free market system. If the government outsourced its collection of the taxes, it would probably be done more fairly, more honestly, and more successfully. Don't get me wrong now. The IRS is the most brutal collection agency in the world. Didn't say it was the most successful. I said it was the most brutal. And they can go after people at any time, and they're the only government agency where you are guilty until you prove your innocence. That's brutal. They get to decide, who lives and who dies, basically. You could be this guy and Tim Geithner not pay your taxes for 5 or 6 years. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Then you're Wesley Snipes. No, you're going to go to jail for 3 years. That's brutality. It's not fairness. Plain and simple. When you don't have an open free market, you have brutality and unfairness. People might think that the open market is unfair. No. You cannot dictate equality. Because there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be more equal than others. And then once you get that government style entrenched, no matter how bad it is, it's nearly impossible to get rid of. No matter how bad it is, you're not going to be able to get rid of it. Logically speaking, there is nothing better on this planet right now. Nothing better has been invented than the free enterprise system, and that includes in medicine. It includes medicine. Think about it. You know I'm right.
Welcome to the Bureau of Womanhood Conformity. Independent thoughts are considered subversive because all must agree with our leader.
When it comes to women, preventive care should include coverage of contraceptive services such as birth control.
You see, if you don't believe government should pay for your birth control, you're not a real woman. Womanhood denied. If you refuse to accept that pregnancy is a punishment, you're denied as well.
I don't want them punished with a baby.
If you don't believe that abortions should be allowed for any reason, If you don't believe in aborting a child for being the wrong gender, and if you don't believe that stay-at-home mothers aren't real workers, you are not a real conformed woman.
His wife has actually never worked a day in her life. His wife has actually never worked a day in her life.
Finally, for your safety, if you oppose mandatory government health care, you will die.
They will be voting to say that women can die on the floor.
These standards and regulations were formed after our glorious victory in the war on women. Thank you for your cooperation and your conformity.
And on the 9th day, God spilled some coffee on an angry possum, and God made a liberal. God said, I need someone willing to get up at the crack of noon and check their Facebook and tweet vile things, take a nap, borrow money from their parents, and stay out all night drinking Paps ironically and snorting bath salts and wine until midnight. So God made a liberal. He said, I need a person that can take a thriving community and turn it into a debt-ridden post-apocalyptic welfare state. I need someone who thinks meat is murder, produce is raised in grocery aisles, who can't fix a flat tire or change her own oil, and who, when forced to finally get a job as a barista, makes you wait for your latte while they play Angry Birds on their iPhone and then takes his union-mandated 2-hour break. So God made a liberal. God said, I need somebody dumb enough to believe in global warming and deficit spending, yet arrogant enough to look down at hard-working folk because they don't have a worthless PhD in 17th century Belgian lesbian studies. It had to be someone that would tax and spend, sue and attack, flip and flop, legislate from the bench and pass an unread bill. A person that would take a story of American success and turn it into a lesson of injustice. So God made a liberal. It had to be someone who'd lie to themselves and others and envy the successful. Someone to whine, cry, demand, screech, and scream sexist, intolerant, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, racist, bigot. It had to be someone that at the end of the day they could go home after helping rip apart a country with divisive race and class war, and who would laugh and then sigh with mocking eyes, thinking, if I hadn't aborted all my children, they'd probably say they want to spend their life doing what Dad does. So God made a liberal.
DJ Trivia. DJ Trivia is a fun, live, interactive trivia game involving several teams and a DJ host. Any subject may be among 20 multiple-choice questions shown on screen at your favorite bar or restaurant and can lead your team to the grand prize. DJ Trivia. If DJ Trivia is not yet at your favorite hangout, tell them to check out DJ Trivia by calling Nobody Entertainment at 864-915-8114. Find out everywhere DJ Trivia is across the upstate and in Asheville Sunday through Thursday night at upstatedjtrivia.com.
From Iraq and Afghanistan, our brave warriors are coming home, wounded. Some with wounds you can see, some with wounds you can't see. Wounded Warrior Project was created to support our men and women coming off the battlefield. Please help carry these warriors the rest of the way home. Get involved at woundedwarriorproject.org.
You're listening to The Rod Eccles Show.
And we are back. You are listening to yours truly, your lovable host, El Rod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire here on the Rod Eccles Show. Now, I know a lot of people, and this isn't really getting a lot of play. Staying on the medical track here just for a little bit. This is not getting a lot of play, and it needs to. And I'm finding it interesting that even though liberals, and I'm looking at all the stuff that my liberals liberal friends have been saying about stuff like this, especially this particular issue, and they're making fun of Justice Scalia. And I have to remind them, look, this must be pretty bad when 3 of the liberal judges are in dissent and a conservative judge agrees with them. And they believe that since this is such a dangerous precedent that they have to vote against it, and you're going to make fun of the judge, Scalia, instead of being outraged that your rights have just been stripped from you. Now, this is how bad this is how so polarized we have become in this country that when there is a genuine threat to us all, half the country doesn't even recognize it until it's too late. This decision, justices allow DNA collection after an arrest. And this comes about when it was said, when it was approved in the Supreme Court, many moons ago, and the Supreme Court said, yes, it was okay to take your fingerprints every time you got arrested for any reason, and for those records to be kept on file, even if you are never charged for anything. Now, understand this. Now, at first, people are thinking, well, that's probably a good idea because we can catch criminals. But let me tell you something. People are getting trapped and ensnared in this stuff because they found out you can be arrested for just about anything. You can be arrested for telling a cop to go screw. A cop can just say, well, I'm going to disorderly conduct and arrest you. And then detain you. And you will never, you'll be let go maybe 24 hours later or with no bail or what have you, and never, ever be charged with a crime. But yet, you are now in the system as if you were a criminal for the rest of your life. And this started happening more and more, and regular, everyday people were finding themselves caught in the middle of all kinds of legal crap because they got pulled over. Because they told a cop to go screw, or a cop was just having a bad day when you ran into him by accident, and they arrested you. And then 2, 3, 5 years later, all that stuff is coming back to haunt you. Why? Because it's in a permanent database. Now, what the hell do you think is going to happen with DNA, especially since some in the approval part of the Supreme Court in the decision about DNA collection is saying it's nothing more than just it's like a fingerprint. Your privacy rights as you have known them no longer exist. Because every time you're going to see police agencies all over the country ramp up for this. And every time you get arrested for whatever reason, they're going to swab your mouth, take your DNA, and then store it electronically forever. And if for whatever reason you happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, I happen to watch CSI Miami. You can be in the bathroom. Leave that bathroom, and then somebody else comes into the bathroom and gets themselves killed, and your DNA is in the bathroom. Guess who's going to be hounded and maybe even railroaded and ramrodded into a conviction for a crime they didn't commit? DNA is not foolproof, folks. Because those people, they're people. They're interpreting the DNA evidence as they see it. It's like leaving your fingerprint behind. Oh, sure, they can figure out you were there, but why were you there and when were you there? Your fingerprint or DNA can't tell them that, but they can try to put 2 and 2 together and decide, oh, yeah, you were there. Yeah, I was there. Yeah, we know you're there. Your DNA was there, and you killed him. No, I don't even remember seeing anybody in there. I left before they even got there. No. Your DNA says you were there. I just said I was there. See, you admit it. Folks, they've been doing this with evidence for decades without DNA. DNA is just going to make them more accurate and more powerful in their ability to do it. Plain and simple. DNA should not be used as a fingerprinting system every time somebody gets arrested for jaywalking. But in a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court has stated police may take DNA samples from people arrested in connection with serious crimes, the Supreme Court ruled on Monday. In a 5-4 decision, the federal government and 28 states authorized the practice, and law enforcement officials say it is a valuable tool for investigating unsolved crimes. But the court said the testing was justified by a different reason, to identify the suspect in custody. Serious crime, I just said it. You were in the bathroom. Yes, I was. And you did it. No, I didn't. Your DNA's in the bathroom. I know because I was in the bathroom. That's where the murder took place. That's what you said. You did it because your DNA is there. And nobody else's DNA is there. But I didn't do it. Your DNA said you were there. My DNA says I was there, but it does not say I did it. We, the prosecution, can make it stick to a jury that because your DNA was there, you had to have done it. Hey, don't say that can't happen, because people have been ramrodded into convictions for crimes they didn't commit using evidence in the past. Very solid evidence of the day. And then we find out 20, 30, 40 years later, somebody decides, well, we're going to do a DNA test. Oh, no, the DNA of this person and the person who committed the crime don't match. But the evidence said he did it. DNA says he didn't. So what makes you think DNA can't also say that you did do it even when you didn't? It all depends on who's reading the evidence. Now, when officers make an arrest supported by probable cause to hold for a serious offense, and they bring the suspect to the station to be detained in custody, Justice Anthony M. Kennedy wrote for the majority, taking and analyzing a cheek swab of the arrestee's DNA is like fingerprinting and photographing. A legitimate police booking procedure that is reasonable under the Fourth Amendment. So basically, they have just stripped you of your Fourth Amendment rights because it's not reasonable, because you can be arrested for anything at any time, no matter what. Now, if a person is charged for a crime, okay, I might agree with, giving up DNA sample, but considering that you could be arrested for disorderly conduct just for telling a police officer to go screw, and then somehow they want to place you at the scene of a major crime, not really gonna fly. Oh, wait, Supreme Court says, yeah, that can fly. And I start telling this to people who are making fun of Justice Scalia and saying, hey, this is not funny. And believe it or not, most of them wise up and they start thinking, oh, yeah, hey, wait, this is not a good thing, is it? Duh. Now, Justice Antonin Scalia summarized his dissent from the bench, a rare move signaling deep disagreement. He accused the majority of an unsuccessful sleight of hand, one that, and I quote, taxes the I cannot pronounce the word tonight. Credulity of the credulous. The point of DNA testing, as it is actually practiced, he said, is to solve cold cases, not to identify the suspect in custody. But the Fourth Amendment forbids searches without reasonable suspicion to gather evidence about an unrelated crime, he said, a point the majority did not dispute. Make no mistake about it, he says, because of today's decision, your DNA can be taken and entered into a national database if you are ever arrested, rightly or wrongly so, and for whatever reason. And Scalia said it from the bench. He just laid the reason out for why this should have been struck down unanimously instead of approved by a split decision. Folks, I said it yesterday. Rest in peace, Supreme Court 2013, because the last avenue, the last vestige of those who are protecting our rights and our freedoms, our God-given, government, constitutionally protected rights and freedoms, has just died. First, they gave us Obamacare, and we were hoping maybe that we could resuscitate it. And now they just stripped us of our Fourth Amendment rights. The Supreme Court, as a protector of the Constitution and your God-given rights, is now dead. Sorry, folks. It's the truth. The only way you're going to be able to protect yourself now is to do what some states are starting to do, and their legislatures and governors are standing up to the tyranny of the federal government and saying, no, you are not going to do this. Not in my state. You need to start electing people on your local and state level who will say that, do that, and act upon it, and prevent this kind of tyranny from happening within the borders of your state. Plain and simple. Then the federal government is going to have to be forced to go to war against its own citizens. And when was the last time they did that? Well, actually, never. The Civil War was not a war about against its citizens. This is a war between, actually, at that particular point, between two small nations, North and the South. And whoever won was going to determine whether or not there was going to be slavery. This is a direct war on the citizenry of this country. Taking away our rights, not giving rights to some downtrodden part of the citizenry. In the Civil War case, blacks. Slaves. This is unprecedented. We are truly living in an historical age, one that is unprecedented. I know people saying, "Well, what about the McCarthy era, Rod? He was out there looking for all those communists, and people in Hollywood were being blacklisted and red listed and pink listed and all the other lists." Yeah, but most of those people survived. And there was only a certain part of the population, people who, a lot of them, actually were sympathizers or registered communists. Now, they shouldn't have been singled out in such a manner because in this country they have a right to believe and express their opinion as they see fit. That's a constitutional right. I should say a constitutionally protected right. These are not constitutional rights. These are constitutionally protected rights because these rights are natural rights. You have a right to express your opinion. That right's given to you by God. Constitution is protecting that God-given right from government, by the way. Let me just make that clear. From government. Government shall not impede your ability to do certain things. That doesn't mean that your fellow citizen or fellow man isn't going to try to stop you. You may have a right to speak, but you do not have a right to be heard. There is a difference. I have a right to be on this microphone. and broadcast out over the internet or on the airwaves, over the air. I have a right to do that. I do not have a right to force anybody to listen to me. I have a right to speak, but I do not have a right to be heard. Plain and simple, there is a difference. And the sooner that we fully understand what we are losing, the sooner we'll be able to correct these measures that are taking away from the freedom and liberty of our posterity, meaning our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, etc., etc., etc. At the rate we're going. Now, Rome, what did Rome last for, like 500, 600 years? At the rate we're going, we're not going to get to 300 years. We're not even at 250 yet, people. And we are starting to see our very own government tear at the very fabric that makes this country great. It's the truth. Hey, here's something for you people who are into the same-sex marriage. Same-sex marriage hits red light in Blue, Illinois. Yes, this is a townhall.com article. While pastors held breakfast, the National Organization for Marriage gave financial support and provided expert testimony in Springfield with Dr. Jennifer Rohrbach Morse on the troubling side of same-sex marriage. Cardinal Francis George wrote and spoke with conviction against the proposal, as did Bishop Thomas John Paprocki of Springfield, Illinois. Churches rallied, and in spite of the odds, to the surprise of Chicago media and the much better resourced gay lobby, pro-traditional family forces stopped the vote. And it came down basically to who? It came down basically to the state legislature and 20 black state legislatures. Now, those black legislators, they didn't buy into the notion that gay marriage and gay rights were the same as civil rights. Because as they pointed out themselves, and I have been telling you this from day one, but the gay lobby didn't want to listen to me. I've been telling you, look, I've said if you guys wanted to go this equal rights route, you had better not equivocate this with the civil rights of African Americans in the 50s and 60s. You will lose the African American community, and they can be a huge asset to you. They did not listen, and now there is a huge African American community backlash. They say, and I quote, "You weren't hung from trees on a whim. You weren't prevented from eating at lunch counters. You weren't told to drink from filthy water fountains. You were not denied medical care at hospitals because of the color of your skin." And blacks, even in the legislature of Illinois, have made it perfectly clear, plain, this is not the same as civil rights. And if you're going to come at us based on civil rights, you are going to lose. And by and large, that's exactly what happened in Illinois. Now, notice where a lot of this gay marriage rights has come into play in legality. They are mostly in overwhelmingly white states. Now, understand there is an exception, California. But California voted what? They voted to deny gay marriage. It was the courts that reversed it. And what is California? Is California a overwhelmingly, predominantly white state? No, it's not. It's a predominantly minority state made up of what? Latinos, blacks, and Asians. Guess what they did? They voted down gay marriage rights. Guess what's happening in Illinois? Very large black population, especially in the northern part, in a place called Chicago. They're saying, no, this isn't the same as civil rights. No. Not at all. Well, we don't mind the Latinos, coming in on the civil rights stuff because they're people of color and they've been discriminated against and they've been strung up like we have too. Not as much as we have, but they can feel what we're feeling. But you gays not being able to legally get married, no, that's not the same thing. So they said no. I told the gay lobby that was going to happen. They didn't listen. See? Told you. I have a right to tell you. I have a right to say what I want to say, but they have a right not to listen. And they didn't listen to their own detriment. Well, it is what it is. What are you going to do? And we have a story here tonight about voter fraud. Meloise Richardson voted multiple times in last November's election and claims they were all legal votes. There is absolutely no intent on my part to commit any voter fraud, she said. Now, Meloise, Meloise, voted absentee for herself, then went to the polls as well. She voted absentee for her daughter and 3 other people, but claims they were all legal votes because they would have wanted her to vote. But she says she didn't commit any voter fraud. Now, if this is the mentality, folks, there ain't no way conservatives are going to win. We got to stop this kind of stuff from happening. You can't. You just can't get away. Well, they are getting away with doing this kind of stuff. And if they can look, we just had a report in Ohio. What there's the Ohio electorate is 125% of population, and I continue to get people to this day tell me that there is no evidence of widespread voter fraud, which is why we don't need voter ID laws. Well, there are people in a half dozen states, probably more, many of them part of Acorn, that were convicted in various courts of law, and many of them are serving or have served jail time because of it. But we don't have a serious fraud issue. We've got more people registered to vote in certain counties in Ohio than actually live in Ohio, but we don't have a voter fraud issue. We have people openly admitting, including this woman named Meloise Richardson, who admits to voting 6 times, but says she didn't commit a crime. But we don't have voter fraud issues. Well, that's the way the people are, folks. That's what they think on the left. That's what they believe. That's why this country is in such trouble. Well, folks, it's been a Fast Express night back on the air. I look forward to seeing you and hearing you again tomorrow night. Same bat time, same bat channels for 2 full hours tomorrow, 6 to 8 p.m. That's what we're shooting for. That's what we're going to do. I'm Rod Eccles. This has been The Rod Eccles Show. We'll see you tomorrow.
Well, goodbye. And don't think it hasn't been a little slice of heaven, because it hasn't.